Good morning, afternoon, or evening, as we have people in from all over the world today. My name is Rick Harrington, Jr., and I am the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Harrington Group International. This is the day I've been looking forward to for the past many years. Let me share with you, first, a short review of our past so you can understand where we came from. Every once in a while, a revolutionary product of an innovative company emerges that changes everything. Most companies are lucky if they get to make a world-changing introduction just once in their entire history, but not for us. 22 years ago, I helped my father launch the Harrington Group. In 1991, we introduced the first computer-based quality management software ever. With that product, we revolutionized the way companies manage their quality of products and services. That product was widely successful. It was the beginning of a series of major new products in computer services that have kept the Harrington Group in the continual lead in an entire new industry that we helped create. In 1992, we introduced the first ever suite of desktop software programs for quality management. These products changed the way quality managers work. We provide unique software programs, each specialized to help manage corrective actions, audits, document control, calibration, training, and equipment maintenance. In late 1993, the Harrington Group wrote the first ever software for an electronic version of the ISO 9000 standards. Until then, it had only been produced in paper format. Later that year, the Harrington Group struck a deal with ASQC to produce the same software for the Q9000 series. In 1996, the Harrington Group wrote the first ever software for ACSI, the American Customer Satisfaction Index, which is still used today by ACSI and ASQ. In 1997, we introduced the first ever web-based corrective action and issue action management software system as an easy way for multiple users to track and eliminate quality problems throughout the enterprise on a global basis. Again, we were widely successful, and that product helped change the entire industry. In 2004, the Harrington Group introduced HQMS, a fully integrated web-based software for quality management and business process improvement. We have led with the introduction of these and many other world-changing software development systems since. But today is the proudest day of my life. After several long years of work and in conjunction with some of the best leaders and entrepreneurs on the planet, I am announcing not one, but three major new initiatives. First, Harrington Group International is launching HGI Intellect. This is a future-oriented software solution that provides an unmatched data analytics and dashboard system that will help managers and executives at every level and in all business persuasions across the enterprise to take large volumes of data from multiple sources, both within and from outside the firm, and analyzing it using sophisticated tools. This will provide key executives and internal experts highly useful information to speed the quality and effectiveness of management decisions. In addition, our new system provides predictive tools to help management and entrepreneurs see more clearly and more deeply into longer-term future so as to help clear the foggy unknown. I am certain you will find this software system unique in its value added in meeting your most critical management needs. We have connected this analytics system with a system of dashboards and scorecards so you can easily see and manage key performance indicators instantaneously across all of your suppliers and all of your own internal operations. And if that's not enough, we offer this new suite as a hosted service in the cloud. But there is much, much, much more. As a second major initiative that I'm announcing today, for the first time ever, Harrington Group International has a second business unit. This unit will be a separate, new business unit, but it will be closely integrated with our software business. I am proud today to introduce Harrington Institute, a world-class business consulting group. It will be led by Dr. H. James Harrington, a colossal giant in the international consulting arena. Dr. Harrington has written or co-authored more than 35 books and has consulting experience with leading nations and some of the largest firms on the planet. He has experience in building a consulting business from ground zero to a thriving business of more than 400 consultants. Dr. Harrington then sold the business, but remained with it over the next 10 years as he grew it to more than 24,000 consultants and $7 billion. So, we are now on a new journey, building an entirely new consulting venture under the direction of Dr. H. James Harrington. I am equally proud to announce that we have a wide range of world-class consulting fellows who have agreed to work with us. With this addition to our former capabilities, you will now be able to bring these world-renowned experts into your own organization to help transform your corporate culture, help make your firm more creative, more innovative, and indeed more entrepreneurial. We will help you improve the effectiveness and efficiencies of everything you do throughout your entire enterprise, from new product development to branding to strategic planning. Literally, everything you do as an organization, we can dramatically help you improve its performance, whether you are a for-profit company or not-for-profit organization. Now, most companies almost never have 3 major new initiatives to announce in one day. But, as always, we think as a true entrepreneurial organization, we think big, and we deliver big. Today we have a 3rd major announcement to make. Today I'm proud to announce the Harrington Academy, our 3rd business unit. Harrington Academy will be a separate, but again closely integrated with our other 2 businesses under Harrington Group International. Through Harrington Academy, you'll be able to have workshops for your senior executives taught by our fellows. We will come to you wherever you are or wherever you want your senior executives to be trained by our world-leading experts. Again, these workshops will be developed specifically to meet your needs, held at locations of your choice, all taught by the world's most knowledgeable experts. Secondly, Harrington Academy will tailor courses in a broad range of business fields designed to improve the knowledge and skills of your mid-level managers and staff. Again, these courses will be taught in person by specialty experts in a wide range of business fields. And finally, if that's not enough, we will shortly offer a range of online courses designed for mid and lower level employees across your entire enterprise at rates previously never seen. And again, taught by our experts in each field, all taught online under our new online education model. I assure you, no university or college will offer the value that Harrington Academy's new business model will offer. As I said earlier, we will now have 3 new business ventures: Harrington Institute for consulting, Harrington Academy for training, and business intelligence software for all your big data needs. Again, Harrington Institute for consulting, Harrington Academy for training, and business intelligence for all your new big data needs. These are not 3 separate companies, but one company under Harrington Group International. Today, Harrington Group International is reinventing the way we do business. These will be highly integrated and tailored to meet the specialized needs of your companies and all of your employees, from the CEO to the men and women on your shop floors. So there you are. Today we launch an exciting and very entrepreneurial organization, Harrington Group International. I am so excited, and I am certain that as you take advantage of all our products and services, you too will be pleased with the value you receive and the results you realize as we help transform your company. I promise you, Harrington Group International will develop a unique and long-term relationship with you and your key employees. Now, let's get down to business as we launched our first annual Harrington Group International Business Conference. Now, for our first fellow leading off, Dr. Jim Jones. He is a consultant to corporate senior management on the effective use of engineering manufacturing information and technology to improve manufacturing productivity. He helps catalyze knowledge creation to invent and develop major new high-value products. He has provided information management and planning consulting services to Fortune 500 companies such as Xerox, Ford, Lear Seating, Deere & Company, Lockheed Martin Marietta, General Motors, Adam Opel, and Telecommunications, Inc. Dr. Jones has written a book on enterprise analysts entitled The Document Methodology, which proposes a system modeling approach to reinvent core processes and manage and distribute knowledge on an entire enterprise computer network. He is currently consulting with the Australian government and Newcrest Gold Mining on R&D innovation. Dr. Jones received his BS in electrical engineering from General Motors Management and Engineering Institute, his MS in mathematics from Michigan State University, and his PhD in engineering from the University of Detroit. He is a member of the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers. Now, for Dr. Jim Jones.
Thanks for that, Rick. I won't have to waste any time convincing these people I'm smarter than I look. I would like to talk to you a little bit about Collaboration Hub, and this very busy slide up here, which I'm not going to go through in detail and risk boring you to sleep on the first slide, is to talk a little bit about Collaboration Hub, which is an Australian company founded by my son. And this company has now been selected by the Australian government to build a methodology for providing tax concessions and then subsequently auditing the work associated with those tax concessions for what they hope to be innovative R&D, which will improve the overall performance of Australia in the global economy. The government R&D tax incentive program is a program to nurture innovative, competitive, and export-oriented industries. It requires companies who are claimants to self-assess themselves, and then they look at this self-assessment and decide what, on the eligibility of the expenditure required and the associated tax concession. The concession agency provides guidance to these people as to how to go about this. Now, this has been an ongoing project for several years, but what the government has discovered is after providing tax concessions, they can't tell whether the benefits of the R&D are achieved. So consequently, what Collaboration Hub has been tasked with is to develop an auditable research and development process and to help so the government can decide whether this is happening in a reasonable way, whatever that means, and whether or not the benefits that the companies are claiming can be achieved. We have the additional problem of trying to decide what to do with the intellectual capital. Obviously, if this is supposed to improve a marketplace, it behooves the Australian industry not to allow the company for which they gave a tax concession to simply hoard the technology that the government essentially paid for. But that's another problem. That's not my problem. What I'd like to talk about a little bit is how a country can improve its economic position in the world marketplace. Now, these aren't my ideas. Michael Porter thought of this, from Harvard, thought of this 20 years ago. And basically, he says that determinants of national advantage fall into factor conditions, national demand conditions, national related and supporting industries, and firm strategy, structure, and rivalry. What you will see mostly here is how to improve factor conditions, which are labor, land, natural resources, capital, to compete in a given industry, and then firm strategy, structure, and rivalry to improve that industry as well. Let me go to the next slide here. In 2005, the World Economic Federation came up with an evaluation scheme based on Michael Porter's book. And basically there's 3 sub-industries, 12 pillars, 111 categories, evaluating 142 countries. You can get this book online. It's free. So you can see how our country is doing and other countries are doing relative to each other. The 3 basic sub-indices are basic requirements, efficiency enhancers, and innovation drivers. So under basic requirements, we've got institutions, infrastructure, macroeconomic environment, health, and primary education. Under the efficiency enhancers, we have higher education, goods market efficiency, labor market efficiency, financial market development, technology readiness, and market size. And business sophistication and innovation fall under the 3rd set for innovation drivers. In addition to that, Collaboration Hub has what they call a company health check. And these are, coincidentally, it wasn't deliberate, we did have 12 things with which the company views, with which the consulting company views an enterprise. Strategy and scope, guiding principles, planning, positioning, standards and knowledge management, capability and core competency, training and recruitment, learning, competitive and collaboration work groups, work practices, workspaces, IT platforms. I'll talk about that a little more later. Let's talk about the Global Competitive Index itself. If you look at Australia, their overall index is 20, but their basic requirements are 12 and 13. So Australia's advantages are its financial system, 8th globally, supported by a 5th-rated banking sector. Its education is 15th in primary and 11th in higher education. Australia's rank under the innovation part is 28th. If you look at Germany, which is rated 6th, its basic requirements and innovation enhancers are basically, or they're not the same, but they are similar to Australia's, but they rate 4th in terms of innovation, while Australia rates 28th. So Australia stands to benefit greatly from a national R&D tax incentive program that works, not just one that gives money to companies in the form of tax incentives. If you look at the United States, you can see why we're having such a problem. A national R&D program isn't going to help the United States much. What the United States has to do is get its financial structure and the relationship between government and business right before it's going to be considered an excellent place to do business. Also keep in mind, in 2008, the United States was ranked #1. So based on our handling of our financial structure and the relationship between business and government, we have managed to fall to approximately the same levels as third world countries on the basic requirements score. Now let's talk about what it takes for innovation. One of the things that that Collaboration Hub does is office design. One of the interesting things that people talk about is virtual employees, but Google and Apple, who are serial innovators, they are considered the most innovative companies in the world, insist that their people work in open offices. Furthermore, Google goes so far as to design its lunchroom to foster collaboration. They've studied what the length of the food line has to be. If it's 4 minutes, people will stop and talk to each other. If there's less than 4 minutes, they'll get their food without talking to each other, and if it's more than 4 minutes, they'll leave. So the second thing they've done is look at the table design, and they've discovered that circular tables aren't as good as long tables. So they've gone to this great extent to get people with different disciplines to communicate with each other, which is also a large part of what Collaboration Hub delivers. They worry about what the office has to look like to maximize not only formal but informal communication between individuals. Furthermore, this is extended to a virtual office. You'll see these graphic displays. If you look there, you can see the size of a person's head relative to the size of the display. This display is 10 feet high and 60 feet long. And it's used both to display very large dashboards so that people can see what's going on in the business, but it's also used to display other offices. So people in widely dispersed geographic areas can communicate just like they're sitting in the same office. This is particularly important when the office, where the office is, dictates, or what the person does dictates where the office is. So if you're a mining company and you got your geophysicists in Sydney and your geologists in Perth and your mining engineers somewhere in the middle of nowhere, a mile underground, they can communicate and operate like they're in the same office environment, which is a key factor in collaboration. The ability for people with different disciplines to communicate easily, both informally and formally. Now, engineering communities communicate fairly well with each other, but they don't even communicate very well with engineers in other disciplines. So what Apple and Google and a lot of companies are discovering is this informal collaboration is key to becoming an innovative company. So, Collaboration Hub's 12-point plan focuses on good knowledge management, project and tollgate reviews, enhanced compliance capability, improved innovation readiness, and effective collaboration. The key component in continuous improvement is process. If you talk to a Six Sigma guy, he'll talk to you about process, and he'll talk to you about variation, and he'll talk to you about monitoring. The key component in collaboration is people skills, people knowledge, people experience. So if you want to improve your company's ability to adapt, it falls into work groups and culture. You're improving people at the individual level, the work group level, the departmental level, and the company level. One of the foundations that we use for this is Carnegie Mellon's People Capability Maturity Model. And the first 5 of 10 principles show that workforce capability is directly related to business performance. It's a competitive issue and a source of strategic advantage. It must be defined in relation to the business objectives. And knowledge-intensive work shifts the focus from job elements to workforce competency, and capability can be improved at multiple levels: individual, work groups, workforce, and organizations. The trick here then is to come up with what I'll call a multi-level isomorphism for management. In other words, the functions for management are the same at each level, even though the data that each level of management deals with is different. One of the things that we've discovered is the importance of a portfolio of programs and projects. And the foundation for this is obviously PMI's portfolio program and project management standard. One of the things I discovered about that standard after working with it for several months, or trying to work with it for several months, is it doesn't recurse very well from portfolio to program to project. So one of the things we've done is define a recursive view of this, so that as you transcend from portfolio to project to program to project, you're going through some of the same functions, but keeping in mind you're dealing with very different things. The toll gate review over here on the right is dictated by the value proposition in the portfolio. The portfolio defines the value proposition. What does an R&D portfolio look like? Well, given that a company wants newer, faster, better, or cheaper now and in the future products and services, the mission is more profitable, adaptive, and competitive. Those more profitable, adaptive, and competitive now and in the future may be in conflict with each other, especially if you want to be an innovator, because you'll end up spending money on people which might go to profit if you didn't spend it on the people. Basically, what you're trying to do by educating, training, and creating a good workplace for people is to increase your number of alternative futures so that you can respond to the market effectively if it changes. Whereas with continuous improvement, you're trying to do what you're currently doing faster, better, cheaper, and produce higher quality. So the R&D portfolio may contain key performance indicators which basically define value, and those key performance indicators may be delight the customer, improve time to market with innovative products, provide exceptional governance, increase sales and profit margin, increase market share, and so on. A successful delivery in R&D programs will increase in the R&D portfolio values and the organizational economic value added. So let's talk briefly about portfolio management. Portfolio management is about value management. Project management is about cost control and delivery. Understanding value is a group-based activity. For example, Google and Apple. A portfolio rolls up component programs that contain projects. A portfolio is driven by strategies and objectives. So, you'll see it later how I suggest this should be done. Project results, portfolio strategies, and objectives inform program and project practices to enable project results that are clear and advantageous, and delivery of desired outcomes without scattered, diffused, or inconsistent work. To make portfolio management work, it must be collaborative, encompassing new systems and processes, portals that provide access to shared data and documents, and visualization, like I had showed you before, to support decision making. The strategy deployment. Now remember I said that innovation is somewhat contrary to continuous improvement, but you can't be adaptive without having most of the principles of continuous improvement in place, because you got to know how you're performing relative to your values, which this brings us back to PISDEC's view of PISDEC, you know, the 800-page book on Six Sigma, brings us back to the strategy deployment plan based on Harvard Business Review's balanced scorecard. Customers consider 4 categories when evaluating organizations. How well do you keep your promises? How fast is your service? How do your products and services help me? Are they dependable? And then what is the cost of buying and owning your product? Financial performance, customer value proposition, internal processes, and learning and growth in the far left boxes are what comes out of the balanced scorecard. The part on the right comes from Six Sigma, voice of the shareholder, voice of the customer, voice of the employee, and then we worry about stakeholder perceived value, customary perceived value, and employee perceived value. A lot of managers worry about stakeholder perceived value if they have stock options, because that what dictates the size of their income for that year. Then we use 12-point initiatives, which I had presented earlier, to define the KPI dashboard, and these will vary significantly from company to company. So this essentially sets your value proposition for all of the portfolios in the company, and you may have portfolios for different areas. So this brings us to portfolio management can be fairly complicated, and to manage that portfolio, there are various portfolio management software companies, and basically it's to provide insights and an overview of their innovation projects with exception and clear progress report. It supports real-time management and coordination across distance and time, and provides a constantly updated picture of an organization's key resources. So there's a bunch of things that it can do. It can improve return on investment by selecting the most appropriate and profitable projects. It can provide better planning, prioritization. It can track projects in real time, manage intellectual property, minimize administration costs, increase security, and automate R&D, tax compliance, at least for Australian companies. One of the things I discovered in reviewing portfolio management software is it doesn't look to me like it's robust. And if you're talking about managing an entire company with a portfolio management scheme, you need a fair amount of robustness in its capability. It has to support a broad range of projects, it has to support multiple projects, and it has to be able to roll up those projects into various kinds of reports to various levels of management. Manufacturing resource planning software looks like it can handle most of this capability in a very general, robust, and sophisticated way, but most manufacturing, well, I can't say most, but at least some of the ones I'm familiar with are pretty rigid. For example, SAP provides you a very sophisticated manufacturing resource planning system, but it has you modifying your process to conform to those systems. It would be very difficult to make research look like a manufacturing division. Harrington software, to me, looks sufficiently flexible to be used as a portfolio management solution exactly as you want it, and that's one of the reasons I'm here talking to Harrington about providing support for the kinds of things that we're going to be doing with some of these Australian companies. One of the things that we have to do in order to create the data necessary to run a company is to know how the company runs. And I'm going to have to check this. American Productivity and Quality Center, that's what APQC stands for. Usually, if I don't look it up, I make up something that isn't right. They have a very large number of process classification frameworks. This is the general one. And basically, what this does for me as a consultant and a process analyst is it gives me a starting point to start developing a current state and a future state model, and then building a taxonomy for managing the company's information. I'll talk about taxonomy a little later. This clearly isn't any particular company, but it does give you an idea and a checklist of what you have to look for when you're developing a process model of the company, keeping in mind that you have a current state of the company, but then after you do all these wonderful things that we suggest you do, that's going to suggest a future state, and people have to be ready to take advantage of that future state, and the information has to be there, and the information has to be rolled up into dashboards that people understand. So you can see here we talk about develop vision and strategy, manage products and services, market and sell products and services, deliver products and services, manage customer service, develop and manage human capital, manage information technology, manage financial resources, acquire, construct, and manage property, manage environmental health and safety. And be thankful I don't read the next slide to you. Manage external relationships and manage knowledge and improvement and change. Okay. This is not a trivial model. This goes down 3 levels. Here's the second level. So basically, it provides us a checklist to say, does the company do this or doesn't? And if it doesn't, where does it get done? Is it get done in a place that makes sense? Is it going to create more problems? How do we transcend from the current state to a state that's more manageable and then to a state that takes advantage of the technologies and techniques we're putting in place? Now, you got to do this fairly quickly, so you got to kind of have an idea of where you're going and why you're going there and what people have done that have gone there before. So that's what this does for us in terms of process modeling. This also serves as a foundation for developing a taxonomy for the company. ISO 15489 is a recognized international best practice standard on records management. A record is information created, received, and maintained as evidence and information by an organization or pursuance of legal obligations or in the transaction of business. So that's the definition of what that is. Australia originally invented this standard, and it was subsequently adopted by the International Standards Organization, ISO, and then now the Australians have adopted it back as their standard. The standard guarantees, the standard has systems and processes that support reliable record keeping. Record keeping is systematic, it's managed, it's audited, and it's a routine part of transacting business. A record must have authenticity, it must be what it claims to be and created by the person at claim. Reliability, it must be trusted as full and accurate representation of its contents. Integrity, complete and unaltered, and usability can be located. Note how important this is if you're going to create an auditable process. You have to track it with viable records. If there's no records in place, you can't track it. So one of the parts of this that's key is creating this viable records management system. Okay, at the risk of losing some of you, this one's kind of important. I've been enamored with this model since I first saw it in 1979, and I've been playing around with it ever since. I've used this to analyze business in a variety of ways, but I really can't tell people about it because they'd think I was crazy. Stafford Beer is a cybernetic model, or cybernetic modeling bases its methods on the human nervous system, and I have a whole bunch of slides I could show you that would guarantee you'd think I was crazy, but let's just talk about what this slide says. The viable systems model's key proposition is that policy, intelligence, cohesion, coordination, and implementation are delivered at all structural levels of the organization. The word for this is a multi-level or isomorphism. Basically, it means that management is the same at all levels of the organization, the basic functions. The information that flows is different, but the function is the same. So this provides a very useful prism with which to look at the various functions of the organization. The first one is implementation functions produce an organization's purposes. So they're the stuff that does work. Cohesion steers the implementation functions. So they coordinate between the implementation functions and possibly provide systems for those functions that allow them to effectively operate but communicate what they're doing between the individual entities. The intelligent function proposes how to adapt the external environment. So it looks out there and says, here's what we're doing. Is what we're doing good? Maybe if we did this later, it would be better. Policy designs debates with balanced contributions of cohesion and intelligence functions. Basically, the purpose of senior management is to create debates between the group of people that are trying to say this is where we should be 2, 3, or 4, 5 years from now, and the group of people that says this is what we got to do to stay alive. This is what we got to do to be more profitable, more efficient, more effective. And that's a debate, because what you're trying to do is decide how to allocate resources for now to make sure you stay in business now, but you got to allocate resources to make sure you're competitive in the future. You can't just keep firing people to stay competitive, because eventually you run out of people. And by the way, there's lots of companies that use that strategy. Okay, so I said information is different at each level of the organization. So in the intelligence function, we have IPP1. They're looking for new products and services from a problematic external environment. IPP2 is to coordinate and enable production activities cohesively. IPP3 is to support adaptation by communicating between the cohesion and intelligence functions. And IPP4 monitors and summarizes IPP3 for effective policy making. So IPP3 is trying to figure out how to keep modifying policy and processes to keep the company competitive. Okay, let's now apply this to the model I showed you before. This is what Stafford Beer's model looks like applied to the APQC process classification framework. Notice that all of those support functions are what coordinates people. And how autonomous you want people to be makes you decide whether they use the same system or their own system. So for example, in many companies, HRM is a central function that hires for all the other companies. In Manage IT, one of the problems in companies with subsidiaries is each group may have its own IT function and databases, and those databases don't communicate with each other, nor do divisions know what's going on between them. And so one of the judgments you have to make in terms of coordination and cohesion is how much coordination do I want, and how much autonomy do I want in each independent unit? And then to that we add this additional problem of funneling in benefits from the portfolios that we used from R&D. So this is, portfolios from R&D is a lot like trying to change a tire on a car while it's running, right? You're trying to continuously improve and modify the company's operations while the company is operating, trying to make a profit. You can't shut down for a year to make it what you think it ought to be in a year. Okay, let me briefly review what I've just talked about. We talked about collaboration hubs, 12 points: strategy and scope, positioning, guiding principles, planning, work practices. I'm going to read them all because standards and knowledge management, competitive and collaboration work groups, capability and core competency, training and recruitment, learning and expertise, networks, work practices, IT systems, and visualization tools. Now, Collaboration Hub starts out with these. We have a framework for what we think they ought to be. Those are supported by standards. APQC's core process models for positioning, Six Sigma viable systems model, and WF GCI 12 pillars impacts positioning, guiding principles, planning. We have PMI, portfolio, program, and project management. Which support IT systems and visualization tools, learning and networks, training, well, not training and recruitment. Okay, we'll leave that because we got other things for them. Then we have collaboration hub methods. We got an R&D, we have to have an R&D process model, and that process model is a little different than a manufacturing model because it's eminently modifiable. We have toll gate reviews and report processes, collaboration models, and at the bottom we have workspace configuration, repository, dashboards, risk KPIs, statistics, studies, lessons learned, templates, and taxonomy. And lastly, we have a customer unique deliverable that produces current state, future state process models, R&D projects, R&D programs, and R&D portfolio, and records taxonomy. Keep in mind what we're trying to do is define a robust approach for companies to make effective use of research and development as it's applied to their operational environment and subsequently applied to the marketplace in which they operate in order to make Australia one of the more innovative countries in the world. Thank you.